started.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today is November 3rd, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Land use meeting for Community Board 17. I got a bit of a guess with me.
On a community board meeting.
I got a bit of a guess with me, but he's curious about what Daddy's doing. Excellent. So
In
first
general.
order of business is to go over the meeting minutes. Could somebody give a do me a favor and take over the meeting temporarily? Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so good night, everybody. We'll be going over the last meeting's minutes.
Yes, we need somebody to motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 6th, 2022.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes with any corrections, October 22.
I second.
All right, now it's open for discussion. Are there any adjustments, modifications that need to be made to the minute? Hearing none. Osni, could you call for a vote for me, please? A verbal? Thank you.
So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone oppose? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are accepted as stated.
And thank you. Moving the meeting along, we'll go to the chairperson's report. Reporting on a few items. All right. Reporting on a few items from last month. I've been in communication or attempted to communicate with CB9 several times, and they haven't been very responsive to me. I also reached out to the 98th Street development team. They responded, but they didn't respond. That would require a meeting or this. Miss Frazier, could you mute the person on the phone for me, please? Thank you. We also had a lot of business on the agenda that was scheduled for this month, but we had a lot of reschedules, which is why our agenda is kind of bland. We had the Kings Highway expansion storage team that reached out to us. I know that email went out, so we'll be discussing that a little bit later. And we also had a development team they were looking for a letter of approval for something on Long Church Avenue. I think that information didn't get distributed because it wasn't really detailed enough, but we're waiting for them to coordinate and have a meeting with us. I also had Osni step in for me for a DDC meeting, and I'm going to pass the mic over to him just so he could give a little update on some information we received pertaining to the Shirley Chisholm project in our neighborhood and other projects.
Charge money for the he hasn't come in as yet.
Now, Mr. Lewis is here.
I'm right here. Right here. So on October 26th, an invitation was sent out by Rodney Smichat's office as an introduction to what the DDC, which is Design and Construction of New York City, and the projects that they have coming along. In particular, in our neighborhood, the Shirley Chisholm project, which was actually bid and the design build team is Lend-Lease Bovis, Studio Gang, and McKissick. Right? If anybody knows about McKissick, they hear the name Cheryl McKissick. I think she's like the great granddaughter of the owner of McKissick, which started, maybe the first MBE firm in New York, in United States. Started in 1905, and McKissick and I believe his brother were the first two registered architects in the United States. So that recreational center comes at roughly the bid that was won by Lend-Lease Bovis with McKissick and Studio Gang, $130 million. And the project is going to be at Nostrand Avenue and Foster Avenue, Foster Park. Okay. Now, in particular, not everybody was invited to that meeting. And this is something that I spoke to Rodney's Bachat's office when they called me on Tuesday to find out if I attended. And I told them, I said, this is good for contractors, but it did not involve the stakeholders in the community. Those folks that need to know what's going on, you know, it wasn't open to the community board and all these different folks, just MBEs like myself or business owners, okay? So they promised in that meeting, and this is from McKissick, Lend-Lease Bovis, and Studio Gang, that there will be community outreach. The most important thing that we could do as a community board and so forth is to hold Rodney's Bachat, Farrell Lewis, Kevin Parker, as well as Monique Waterman and all the others, to force them to make sure they have this community engagement. Another key component of this job is under a PLA agreement. A PLA agreement is a project labor agreement that includes union workforce. Now, this could be a little bit of a challenge based on the fact that, to my knowledge, as it is right now, I do not see a drive to push for any of the pre-apprenticeship programs in our area to start training and getting our folks prepared for it. Another statement I made to their office, Rodney's Bachat's office, is that not only do they have to do the workforce development, they need to do also the economic business development of the contractors that are going to be hiring these folks. Okay? The project is slated to start construction in the third quarter of 2023. And I told Miss Rodney's Bachat's office, we have less than a year to get everybody coordinated and ready for this work once it opens up. So I want us to be very clear. I'm very intentional on making sure that there is allotment for Black women and men minority business entities. And even if you're not a minority business entity as yet, guidance on becoming one. Because in particular, white women, just like in affirmative action, white women have been the ones that have been able to capitalize on this minority status, which was supposed to deliberately be for Black people. But right now, a lot of these companies, in particular, Studio Gang, the architect that is actually doing the design build, it's a white woman that owns that company. And then what Lend-Lease Bovis did in terms of trying to make a balance, he got McKissick, which is run by a Black woman. So he get both of them in one go, right? And this is part of the reason why I believe, I'm just saying this to my estimation, why they received the go-ahead to get that project, okay, at 130 million. Now, originally, the check that was obtained from Mayor de Blasio was $141 million. Okay. So in actuality, even if there's a little bit of an overrun on the project, it shouldn't be, in my estimation, it shouldn't be over the 141 million, but we need additional funding for workforce development, small business development, as well as awareness, as well as communication with the organizations that are in the community. Ms. Martinez, I see your hand up.
This is Hazel Martinez. My concern here is that where it is now, they are making the same mistakes that they made when it was to be in the Tilden playground. When you don't consult the community and then you get the pushback, everyone is unhappy. But frankly, at this point, I've been to groundbreaking, I've been to all these things. Really am not sure what the actual final design is of this center.
I'm not sure if they're aware of that either. It's a design.
All they will do is that if you go to the DDC website and look up the Shirley Chisholm building, you will see what they have put as a rendering. But basically, with design build, it's just that. You could start construction, and if something doesn't work, it could be changed in construction. There is no final product until it is completely up. And when I say up, completely constructed.
But there were some specific things that the community requested, and I want to know that they are actually in that building.
So again, I am not too aware of what was requested, and I wonder if that was delivered to, in particularly, Ms. Boshat, and if before then, if Farah Lewis was there before, I'm not too sure. But do we have a record of that in the land use or from the community?
I believe we have records and intentional asks from the original location, which obviously would have just transposed to this location. It's hard for us to comment without having the drawings in hand.
Right.
How did Rodney's Bashad get in charge of this?
I don't think
He didn't get in charge of it. What I'm stating is that Ms. Boshat was the one that ended up getting the funding for it. She and Farah Lewis.
She's a
I don't know if you
spearhead.
guys, I don't know if you guys have ever saw the actual footage and the picture with both she and Farah Lewis holding the check from Mayor de Blasio.
Well, I held that check too.
Huh?
I held that check too on behalf of the board.
Yeah.
Very good.
But it's neither here nor there.
All right, hold on.
If I may, Mr. Apre.
Absolutely, Ms.
I concur with Ms. Martinez. Farah Lewis wasn't the council person when this project started. So all the records, I believe Mayor Bloomberg had allocated, I think, Hazel, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct.
$1 million to start the feasibility study on this project. And I know that Ms. Martinez and myself and a few community residents, we had several meetings throughout the community. And in those meetings, the community expressed exactly what they would like to see in this center. So I am hoping that because I believe the Parks Department conducted that feasibility study, so they should have that information. I am definitely going to revisit it because I've been in this project from the inception. Also, Ms. Martinez, and Allison, and I think, and a few other senior members on the board. So it just didn't start last year or the year before. This started since in Bloomberg administration.
Jemani Williams.
With Jemani Williams. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier.
So now I understand that, but since that time, and this is why sometimes, depending on the situation, we have to keep an eye on what's going on, because the same way how the move happened to bring it to Foster Park, how many of the folks here was involved with that move to Foster Park?
Yes, we were, because the people no one consulted the local residents around Tilden Playground. And when they saw the feasibility study, neither did they get back to us about the feasibility study. When people saw the results of it and their homes were going to be impacted, it's a smaller park. And so it was voted down at the board. And that is why now it had to be moved. It was, another location was identified, which turned out to be Foster Park, where the people at in Flatbush Gardens were happy with it. I understand the people in the school are not happy with it.
Well, I mean, put it this way, we ain't going to make everybody happy. And what we have to look at now is that, again, while it is still in the design build stage, we could be very proactive in going back, getting those documents, and making sure that the Parks Department, making sure that the elected officials are pushing for and the community board must push to have their voice heard, because as it is right now, the project has already started its design. I think from what I was told in that meeting, they're about maybe about 20 or 30% into that. And what is going to end up happening is that in the third quarter of August 2023, they are going to, well, which is about August or September, they're going to start to break ground. So my main thing is that if now we want to revisit it and make sure that whatever was suggested is part of the design bill, this would be the time to do that. And this would be the best time to really do that, because you don't want to sit back and then when it reaches about June or August next year, no, we want to do this and we want to do that. We got to do it from now, whatever it was. So if we could find that agreement or what was asked, the specific acts that the committee board had, to make sure that it's being put in as part of of the community's input, we need to do that now. I see Ms. Alison Martinez hand.
Oh.
I just want to suggest that this is exactly where it would have been better if, when you all got the email or call, whatever it was, about joining that meeting, that you had shared that information with the committee, because we do have the institutional and memory of what was discussed, and could have asked questions.
No, again, this is why I'm telling you that specific meeting was not for that purpose. It was an
matter.
No, Ms. Martinez, it matters. The reason why it matters is that if you are not a direct consultant, if you are not a direct MBE in construction or design build or engineering, you did not get the invite. And I was specifically told by Ms. Radnice Bouchat and them that this was specifically for the MBEs. I went in as a member of the land use committee, and as a MBE electrical contractor, I went to find out what is going on happening. So I'm bringing back the information now, because it's not just me alone has to push those specific politicians and the DDC also, and the Parks Department, to come and have a sit down with us. Because originally I was told that they only wanted to speak to the Parks Department, the Parks Committee, period, Parks and Beautification. And then I was told that Ms. Radnice Bouchat told them that they can't do that, that they need to set up a community meeting where all the stakeholders could be a part of it. So this is just an introduction, but I'm just telling you.
I'm understanding that. I'm not questioning that.
The amount of time. Go ahead.
Okay.
My point is we need to be involved in all of the meetings because it's all a holistic thing. We need
Understand.
to know who the potential players are going to be down the road so that when you're evaluating who the WBE people or the whoever may be contracted, we have a basis of who they are and what they're about, and then what the processes are that they may implement in community engagement, marketing, or any of the other contracts that come down the road. And and we need to know who are all the players and decision makers from all the agencies, and they need to see our faces. So we have to be careful about making sure that we can all be there, because I remember I also at one point was in Farah's office, so I know the projects that we were talking about, having a pool in there, and other people who are on this call, because that was one of the issues why it wasn't a good spot when it was when they were presenting putting it in Tilden, because it couldn't harness a pool. So it was a pool. It's about having, there was supposed to be a workforce center built in it, some other spaces, and we need to be on the ground now making sure that they are building and planning and designing a space that can accommodate those things. So, and there aren't anything that's like written in stone. So that means we now need to go back to our elected officials and make sure that the things that we discussed are there from now. And then, and at the end of the build out, we have to be careful because parks will be managing and running who actually works there. And we need to be able to make sure that our organizations and the people that we know in the community have jobs that are post construction, but in terms of the management of that space and the programming that goes on there.
So again, this is where the workforce development, this is where the again, like I said before, the construction and the small business development is key and important. Because if you don't know the job that necessarily will be inside the building there, you would not be in the place to really command that. That's what I'm saying again. And that's why I bring it to us now. We have less than a year to make sure we could put everything that we want inside. Okay?
But
And
I'm
and
saying
it's
that's
not
already planned.
and it's just not enough to come only to this meeting or any meeting. Everybody who is interested, again, I will give you the players. Lend-Lease Bovis, Studio Gang, McKissick and McKissick, DDC, Parks Department. Those are all of the people and all of the major players that are involved with this project. Now we need to go back and again, go back over what we asked for and see if you could get to talk to Studio Gang, which is the architect, or McKissick, which is the architect also, but they're dealing with the MB side and all these different things. And plus two, we have to make sure that the folks who are speaking and asking about it, they have the qualifications to help in the process, because we don't want to go there and they tell you, well, what do you guys have planned? What do you guys have? Anybody qualified to do workforce development? Anybody qualified to hire? We need to have all of that together so we don't allow them any excuses. That's the most important thing that I see here. Because what's going to end up happening is that if we don't have the people that are qualified to even look at the 30%, which is supposed to be given for every city project, public works project like this, 20% goes to MBE, minority business entity. 10% is going to WBE or WMBE, which is women minority based entity. And then there might be an additional 3 to 6% that goes to the disabled service veteran. We need to make sure we have those people in place that could get that 30%. And then on top of that, we're looking for more than the 30% too. So we have to get more people that are qualified. So that means that when it comes down to administrative, the certifications and everything else, all of the folks that have those capabilities, they need to hit the ground running. And we need to start doing simple invites and simple things among the community board to see who we have in the community so that we could carry that into a meeting. Because I know how these people think. If they say they can't find you, they get to sign a waiver, and then all the other people from around will come into the community, work and get the jobs, and walk out the community with the money in their pockets.
All right, let me just interject for a minute, just 1 second, just so that we could. I don't want the conversation to go away from what the intentions of Mr. Lewis is bringing information to this. Where we are now is that the procurement email went out for the project, right? Once the procurement email went out, we contacted the council member's office to find out, or really, I think I made a contact, to find out who the contact was at DDC, which was actually supposed to be here today at this meeting, just so they could discuss the project. We were told that they were in the process of developing some sort of presentation and that they would come to us. At this stage, the concept drawings, much like our 98th Street drawings that were given to us, are out. The exact build drawings for what's there has not been developed yet, to my knowledge. So my goal is to get those drawings. My goal is to analyze those drawings. Then once we have them and we know what they're actually building, then we can conceptualize if they're actually doing what we asked or not. It's impossible, or it's going to be an infinite conversation talking about something we don't have information on. So task me, and I'm hoping that this should be a public record. I'm hoping that if they filed, that this should be readily available, or that McKissick, the architectural firm, will share some version of the drawings with the community, being that we're affected by it, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire to see if that they share that with us. At that stage, being that it's already past that stage, we're hoping that our community input in the past has been there, but I'm going to assume that it's not. But we can't say that for certain until we see the actual build drawings. Ms. Martinez, your hand.
This is Hazel Martinez.
Hazel Martinez.
I'm not about sitting around waiting for them to show me their design. We want their design to have what we want in it, or there has to be some community conversation with them. Don't come and tell me that you're putting this in, and especially Parks Department, because they are quite famous for doing whatever they want to do and spending our money elsewhere and then finagling. And I've had the experience, so I know what Parks does. And Parks seems to be getting a lot of projects, and and they only hire certain people, and our community is always excluded. You look at whenever Parks arrives at any event even at the groundbreaking, and you look at their hierarchy, and we're not there. And so I'm not sitting around waiting for them to tell me that in the end, no, you're not having a pool, or no, you're not having the community kitchen, or no, you're not having whatever it is that people said they wanted in there. No, they need to confer with us.
We could say that, but they need to have the opportunity to do that too. And we haven't, at this point, being that procurement just went out, they haven't had the opportunity to do that. I'm hoping, like I said prior, that DDC will be here next month and give us that information for verbatim. They should know what they're designing. That's what they do. That's what their department does. They should be able to answer those questions fruitfully and hopefully give us everything that we're asked. Yes, we can make our demands, and I'm hoping that it actually reaches and does what it needs to do. But what steps would you like me to take other than get the information, confirm whether they're doing it or not, and have them here and speaking to us? What steps do you think we should take to get exactly what we're asking for?
We should be first going to Councilmember Lewis and asking her. Number one, we should be at those meetings to begin with, because I'm
Which
sure
meeting?
her team
Okay.
would be having meetings with DDC to tell them what they want. That's number one. So we should be asking for a follow-up. Well, number one, we should be in those meetings. So whenever her team, her office is having those calls, we should be on them. And then we should be getting a list of what they've already asked DDC to put in the design to begin with, because DDC is just going to make a design and report on what they were already tasked with doing. And also, if there's a procurement email, could you distribute that to the rest of the board, the committee, so we could see what language is there, what's in it, what the asks were?
So let me just state on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number one, on City Record Online, there was an NDA signed by Lenlis Bovis with DDC. So we have to figure out what is in the NDA and what is outside of the NDA. Now, the only person you could really basically ask that really, if DDC doesn't want to respond, is either Farrah Lewis or Ms. Bouchat. Right? So we have to understand that. Now, when it comes to the other thing, like I said, and what was said before by the chair, we need to get the drawing and see if the pool was implemented and all of that. And the reason for that being is that most, if not all, of the recreational centers around New York City have a pool. So I don't think that is going to be an issue. It should be big enough to have the pool in it. Most of 95% to maybe 100% of the recreation centers I know throughout all 5 boroughs have pools. So I
It's
don't
not
think
a guarantee. It wasn't a guarantee, and they had to have funding to support it. So we need to clarify and basically confirm that it is in there among the other asks, which did include a community kitchen, even a recording studio was asked for. So there are other spaces that were asked to have in there. So we just need a list of what exactly will be in there, and to confirm it. We also
well, again, like I said, we have to figure out what is in the NDA agreement and how much of the design will be shared. That's
we
what I'm
just need
saying.
to
So,
see what's
in
in the
order to
RFP.
in
Why
order
did
to
they
do
need
that,
why did they need an NDA?
in order to do that, like I said, like you said before, Ms. Martinez, we have to go and speak to Farrah Lewis, Ms. Bouchat, and DDC.
And can I just say this, that neither one of those two people were in this in the beginning, and Ms.
That's
Bashad
correct.
is even later to the party.
Correct.
Again,
So they don't
I
know
understand.
anything, especially Rodney's Bashad, about what this really is all about. It
Everybody's
might be a
coming in.
power grab, but it is not going to be benefiting this community. And the Tilden playground, one of the reasons it wasn't going to work either, there was no pool.
Right, because the space might have been too small
That's correct.
to put a building size enough to have a pool. But like we said, when the DDC comes and we could get close to what the design bill is and we could get the drawings, like we said, the chair said, and I will go through with him based on what we have there. We could wait to see what DDC says, and then we could bring back a report to the group here. And then we will have at least a framework to start to go behind specific things that were asked for. But we can't do that. We can't do that now if we don't know what is on the drawings, what is on the design bill. We can't speculate.
We should not be waiting for DDC to
Have a
come with their first
tentative
report.
agreement.
That's a waste of time and money. We need to go first, like draft a letter, write to Farrah Lewis's office from now, because we should be influencing that design that gets reported back. Number one. Otherwise, it costs money. Every redesign costs money, and you know that. So we should avoid that.
Hold on, Mr. Lewis, I got this.
We should avoid that by being proactively getting a letter to Farrah now and be at those tables. And we need to be sure that our committee is in those meetings from the beginning, period.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not sure if meetings are happening, but I'm probably sure that they are.
They are.
And they're suggesting. I'm glad that you have that information. I am going to ask you if you help me draft that letter so that we get all of the language inside of it, and we will get that letter directly delivered to Miss Lewis and whomever needs. Maybe we could do a carbon copy one. We'll just send it to all associated officials to see if they could help us in that aspect. But we want to make sure that that letter is crafted carefully and, with enough knowledge to make sure that our concerns are validated. But we do need to craft a letter. If that's what the committee wants to do, that's what the committee will do. Yes. Yes. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah. So, well then, Kwame, maybe you call a motion for the letter,
Yeah, let's do that.
and before it's sent out, we
Yeah,
come to the community board. So if it's between this month and next month for the next meeting, we have the letter in place. It's read to the land use board and then delivered out so that everybody has the input, or at least knows that the letter and what it's stating. Is that fair?
Yes, and it should also speak about the percent project and where that is right now, because I know that was being held up by DDC. So we need updates from the elected officials and the city agencies directly.
Excellent. Does somebody want a motion?
I, Osney Lewis, board member, committee member, make a motion that the letter be written and then reviewed by the land use committee and then sent out.
Can I amend just to add that you should probably coordinate with the Parks Committee so we could be all both on the same page if those are going to be the lead committees on this project?
Yes, review, vote on it.
You want to amend it so that it says to review and vote on the letter? All right.
And include the parks and beautification.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the chair.
I'm on the committee also.
Yeah, maybe they're not even aware that is even happening. I mean, it's only been 2-3 weeks. What has it been since?
Look, we have a new committee members, a member, chair. So, but I've been on that committee. I'm still on that committee.
Okay.
I'm well aware, but I don't know about the new people.
Have you been hearing about this project in that committee?
Originally, yes. Now, I cannot tell you. The new person doesn't really know much of anything about it.
Okay. Did the prior chair speak on it?
I believe so, because they were part of this committee also.
Okay. Yes, he was. Okay. So yeah, well, I don't know who I could reach out to. I'd probably even reach out to the prior chair just to make sure that everything happens. But the motion is on the floor. I think it needs to be seconded. I don't think it was. And then we could do a vote.
Exactly. You can't review it without a vote. You review it, then you vote on it. You discuss it, you vote on it.
Well, we have to agree to craft it and draft it with everyone's approval. So start there.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
included in that.
Adele Bennett seconded.
Thank you. We're open for discussion, which we've already had. And we'll call for a verbal vote on the matter. All in favor of crafting a letter to our elected officials to find out the updated status of various projects in the community, including the Shirley Chisholm project. And you said, Ms. Martinez, which project was it?
Allison?
Oh, are you talking about it's the percent project?
The percent project.
That has to do
Yes.
with Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah. So all
That's
associated.
all one project.
Yeah, all associated project with Shirley Chisholm Museum. All in favor of that?
Community center.
Community. Sorry.
Mhm.
That's something stuck in my mind. To be reviewed and coordinated with the Parks Department, or not the Parks Department, the Parks Committee, Parks and Beautification Committee. All in favor of that, say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. I'll be getting with everybody. If you're active on the Ms. Martinez.
I just had a question of when was Parks DDC expecting to have their report back? When is that supposed to be happening? Is it officially happening next month?
I was told that they would be ready at the middle of this month, but our meeting was too early. So I'm hoping that it's by December 1st. I'll follow up.
then I think also what we need to do is to, these city agencies have a habit of considering just appearing before the committee and or doing a presentation at the full board as their entirety of their community outreach. I
Mhm.
think we need to actually, if they're going to be presenting, we need to do some kind of community outreach ourselves to get the people involved who live in this area, especially the people who are around Flatbush Gardens and that area as well, especially to be on that call whenever it's scheduled to occur, or if it's going to be at the full board meeting, to make sure that we have actual real community engagement and not just the people who happen to be plugged in because they happen to be on the board or a committee.
Understanding. We have to have some targeted promotion of the event so that the community is aware when it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So let me confirm the dates. Make sure that they're going to be here and that they're going to be square. Hopefully, I haven't been having luck with communication lately. I don't know if you heard, but hopefully they get back to me and yeah, we'll figure out something. I don't know what the best means to get that information out, whether it be flyers or
It's flyering and
just
you
flyering,
know,
papering, train station.
papering, dropping them off at or going on what's that, next door, those kinds of things.
Okay.
That's what we need to do.
All right.
Yeah. Also, there's one more thing. When they do their so-called community engagement, can you hear me? Sometimes they like to do the community engagement where they choose to do it. And that never works out.
Yeah, I agree. Being that we have an insider, I don't want to call him out, but we have an insider. We know what the intended dates are. Doesn't mean it's going to happen by that date, but we know what the plan is, at least omnisciently. We'll be as aggressive as we can. As much energy as we want to put into it, we will. We're aware of it, you know. The only reason we're aware of it is because we have people involved. If we'd had not people involved or even interested in anything going on in our neighborhood, we wouldn't even know. Like, you know, so it happened quietly, but we're bringing a megaphone to it because it affects us directly. And hopefully we want it to affect us in a positive way. I think that ultimately we all want the same thing. The equity that this type of project is going to bring to our community is going to be limitless, you know, from the build to actual resource, following up even with contracts, like what was being spoken about. It's a limitless funnel of resources for the community. It comes in many forms, you know, and everybody could get a piece in multiple ways. It just doesn't have to be working there. It could be utilizing it, and it could be possibly even getting a business or even using it as a community resource for events and so on. So we're all invested.
Maintenance of that building and that property.
Absolutely.
Well, again, it's not just getting it, but making sure the people that we have qualified have all the certifications to do it too.
Yeah, it's top and bottom.
You don't want to give them any excuses. That's why the workforce development, again, is key, but also the contractor development. We can't leave out that part. And that is why I keep saying that, because a lot of the time we just say the people gonna get the job. It ain't gonna get just like that. You gotta be qualified. In particular, for building maintenance, you need a 608, which is a HVAC certification. You need a Q1, Q01 or Q99, which is a refrigeration thing to deal with either chillers or the heating and cooling in the building. That's one of the main certifications amongst others. So again, this is why, again, we, you know, it ain't gonna be just like that. We have to have the people qualified with the proper credentials in order to make sure that it's airtight.
Understand, but on our part, prior to that, we do need to canvass the neighborhood, not only to let the community know of what's coming, because they probably don't even know that it actually happened. I'm just reviewing the manner and how the information was distributed in my mind as we're speaking. And if I didn't get a phone call from you and a text requesting Danny to be here the other day, I wouldn't have known anything was happening there. So we also need to do that with the businesses in our neighborhood so that they're aware that it's happening, number one, to see what businesses are actually, you know, interested so that we could target our efforts to those businesses should we need to. We could say that we want to help the community contracting businesses or anything else associated with the up and downstream build of this facility. But we also need to know who in our community is available or interested in doing so, right? Because a lot of times, they may not have the interests or may not want to take the necessary steps. So maybe it falls on us or the individuals that are interested in that particular party to pool and get those information for these particular parties
Yes.
up front. You know
I
what I
know.
mean? And get them
Yes.
involved here. Make
Also
sure,
apprenticeships.
make sure that they come here and join us here so that they're not only in it for, the financial benefit, but they understand the power of this community and how we could aid them in getting such things in the future,
Mhm.
But Ms.
Sorry.
Bennett, who's that?
No,
No,
that's Allison. Sorry. I based on what you just said, then I think we should also technically we should be involved in commerce because that is where people would be going to get certifications, most likely to get information about MWB certification and the like. So I think if we add on more committees in terms of how universally important this project is to all of the areas that the board covers, then that could be of use so long as it doesn't slow us down in getting it out.
Yeah, we'll probably have to be the tip of the spear on it. I'm Harry. I'm happy to include anybody as his aerial on his way to the target, because we could honestly say that almost every committee could be involved in this project. As I'm looking down them, there's probably not one that's not really involved, because I think there's even a post office there. It is going to have a sanitation effect. The facility could be used for social services and seniors with the kitchen and etc. So it's really a full community board thing. But we'll speak with the other chairs and include them. Ms. Fields is here, housing. They're aware. They'll get the message out to their people. But ultimately, I'd like the momentum to come from us. Oftentimes, it's hard to get everybody on the same page. If we put the outline out there, we could have their input inserted. We could all agree on whatever is going to be crafted, and then ultimately send out the ideal thing that encompasses everybody. It's an equity stake that I'm sure everybody's interested in. So my executive meeting is on Monday, and I plan on bringing this up. We good?
We're good.
Thank you. That was a mouthful, but that's what we do. Unfinished business. Also on unfinished business, I didn't get to modify the agenda to show. So I've been in communication. I'm going to expose you a little bit with Therese in regards to the legacy series of events that we were trying to commit to. She did reach out to some lawyers to get their fee, and I was actually put onto a organization. I'm going to find out the name of that organization now, actually, that actually has the resources to possibly do so. I have someone helping me draft the letter to our officials to request the funding, because ultimately the goal that I was hoping to do was to actually have a resource and execution platform that they could actually come, learn, and actually do with our aid if possible. But Therese, are you comfortable speaking on the information you got, or you want me to share?
I got two different proposals from two different attorney firms, each of them specializing in wills, estates, trusts, and power of attorney, and sort of all of the mandatory documents when dealing with like legacy and estate and passing on of assets. They have different approaches and different like recommendations and fees. But what we said we were going to do was consolidate the information and put together a proposal to the committee so, everyone can get on board in terms of what the plan would be and how we would want to engage the community. But the overall goal was to open a bid up and get like different approaches, which is where we are in the process.
Thank you. Yes. So the subsidized fees average from anywhere from 3,500 to about 5,000, depending. We did have an organization that had more reasonable fees that we're hoping that, you know, if we partner up with the funding that we'll get, the funding that we're hoping to get to support this, initiative, that we'll be able to utilize and get this resource out in the most palatable way to the residents. Sorry, I saw something pop up in the chat that was there. So, do we have any insight, Ms. Martinez?
The $3,500 to $5,000, is that their subsidized fee for doing a trust, or
Yeah,
for them to? Okay.
the combined will, trust, healthcare affidavit. So
Okay.
it's the total legacy package that it would include.
That's about
and
average.
that's what I thought.
cost.
So that's what I thought. So we did find an organization. I got to vet them. That did have like some, I guess, more reasonable, but just because it's reasonable doesn't mean that it's proper. So we're trying to do our best and vet, but ultimately it's limited to the funding that we get. You know, I would love to subsidize, and honestly, it's up to the input and the people that are interested as well. We could probably get a decent amount of funding to support something like this, but if we don't have a lot of interested parties, you know, we could either pay partially for some of that, or maybe for the whole thing, depending on interests, you know. So we're in the beginning stages. I just wanted you to know that we're working on it, and anybody who'd like to work on it still, in any way, you know, venues and etc. You know, I'm looking for any type of help I could get.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Any more discussion on the project, process, input, insight? Anybody? I'm just as tired as I am, I see. Cool. And thank you, Therese, for reaching out. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I gotta show that everybody is working in their own corners. So moving the agenda along to new business. Oh wait, excuse me. Do we have any other unfinished business? Seeing none. Moving the agenda along to new business. Do we have any new business? Making it easy. Making it easy. I'm going to take this opportunity to just restate that we did have a couple of organizations reach out to us. New business. I do want to make sure that everybody did receive that email in regards to the storage facility on Kings Highway. Did everybody receive that?
I didn't receive it.
I don't think I did either.
No, I didn't.
Mr.
But I-
Apre, I don't believe. I'm trying to remember if I sent it out. I believe we held on to it because they had asked to be removed from the agenda.
They
But
did.
I'll check. If you would like me to still send it out, I could do that right now.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Just the overview. I had it, but I think my minion took it and ran. They are trying to build a storage facility. I believe they're looking for a variance to build a storage facility on Kings Highway. Ms. Bennett, your hand is raised.
I'd like to know exactly where on Kings Highway.
Yeah. Let me pull it up. Sorry. Maybe I can even put it on the screen. I actually have it right here. Let's see. Hope all is well. We represent the Clarendon Holding Company. It should be coming to you. Miss Frazier, get this distributed. 5381 Kings Highway. List the block and lot. 5381 Kings Highway. Actually, hold on. I got it even better. I'm gonna put it in the chat for everybody to read. But I'll still review it and read it through. and then you should be getting it in a distribution form in the email. Just so that you could all understand what's happening together. All right, it should be in there, but I'll still continue reading. For those that don't have access, the block and lot is 7949. The lot is 58. They're looking for a special permit from the City Planning Commission in pursuant of the zoning ZR, self-storage facility designated areas within manufacturing districts. The special permit will facilitate the development of a 5-story self-service facility consisting of approximately 73,000 square feet. They were trying to get the special permit application certified in December, but they look like it's going to happen more in January. And I told them if they were trying to get something in that short time frame that they should be here tonight, and they couldn't get their presentation together in time. And Ms. Fraser, excuse me?
Sorry. You said the address is 53...
81.
5381, okay.
5381.
It looks like it will be replacing a pretty much like a 1-story building. And they want to make it 4 stories. Is that correct?
5 stories.
5 stories.
5 stories.
No.
Yeah.
Can I just say this, Hazel Martinez? I would not be voting for that because we have this community has more than enough storage facilities. I mean, we are inundated with them, and right where this is a very small access to a service road. And I mean, it's just a tiny spot. They already block it up all day with tractor trailers when they're unloading some organic food things and next door to it. And I don't see why in the world we need another storage unit. We're surrounded by them. All we do is store rats. And I mean, some of them have an enormous amount of rats and all that stuff.
Everyone should have the copy of their mailbox.
There was an attachment too. Was there an attachment, Ms. Fraser, or no? Just a narrative, right?
We don't need another storage spot there.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Ms.
That's
Vigliotti.
right by by the overhead.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, 5381 is right by the underpass. Yeah.
I agree. There are 4 storage places in that area. It's
I'm sorry.
overloaded.
Oh, okay. Hello?
Said the area is overloaded with storage places. There are 4 that I recall right away, very close by, just walking distance.
Thank you, Ms.
Martinez.
Ms. Vigliotti, you had your hand raised, and then I'll get to you, Mr. Holland.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think also, I think that is right next to private homes. I think there's private homes right near there. So I think that's another consideration.
You're right.
Nobody wants that next to their homes.
I will say that the consensus from the people who saw the information, along with some other members of the committees, is the same. But Mr. Holland?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. First of all, I want to tell you who I am. My name is Darrell Holland. I used to be on this committee prior to COVID, and I sort of fell by the wayside, but I'm back now.
Appreciate it.
And I work I'm glad to be back. And I'm at the Business Outreach Center Network. And for the city of New York, I manage 2 industrial business zones. The Flatlands Fairfield Industrial Business Zone, I'm called the Industrial Business Service Provider for Flatlands Fairfield Industrial Business Zone and the East New York Industrial Business Zone. The 5381 Kings Highway, that special permit, the group of us from all 5 boroughs had that passed prior to COVID-19. I'd like to give a presentation next month at the next meeting as to why you don't need it. One of the reasons is, real quick, there are already 8 storage facilities in the Flatlands Fairfield Industrial Business Zone. Now, only part of this community board is in the Flatlands Fairfield Industrial Business Zone. But as the young lady pointed out earlier, there's more than enough. And I'd like to make a presentation, get some time next week, put some things together as to why we're looking for, I'm part of the Industrial Development Coalition and the Manufacturing and Industrial Innovation Council. These are people like myself that manage industrial business zones throughout the 5 boroughs for the city of New York. Why we're looking for this committee support against the storage facilities and then take it to the community board and ask them their support for not putting up a storage facility. And one of the main reasons I want to say this 70,000 square foot is going to, storage facility is only going to create about 4 or 5 jobs, whereas if it was manufacturing, it would be something that size, 15 jobs minimum or more that pay a living wage, and some with benefits and some with even 401ks. So I'd like to talk about it next month, give a formal presentation with some documentation as to why I feel strongly that we should not be in favor of this application. So I'd like to be on the agenda for next month for this.
Absolutely. I just sent you my email. I'm sure
Okay.
you have some support here, as you heard the tone of what's going on. Send me an email. We'll coordinate. Just let me know how much you talk. We'll speak off record, how much time you need, and etc. I have no problem having you follow their presentation for, and if you follow against, I'm totally for it. We need to hear both sides.
That's great. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
Yes, thank you.
You have some questions, Mr. Holland. Ms. Martinez, Hazel. Sorry, Hazel Martinez.
I just want to say that the people overloading our community with these storage units, they don't live anywhere near here. They're just totally destroying the look of our community. And I am so strongly opposed to this. It's ridiculous. And there are a couple of houses right next to this little piece, attached to it almost. I mean, one house has actually always got a tractor trailer next to it already.
Thank you. Allison?
I would just add 2 things that the people in Woody Lane in that area, Woody Lane already complain about the engagement they have with the businesses that operate there, which are all trucking based, be it DHL or Amazon, who already have vehicles there. And Amazon actually parks their vehicles in that strip that's in between the homes and that building. So I'm not even sure how it would impact that, which has been the only outlet to get them from clogging up the streets in the back there with their vehicles. So if that is taken up to add this this tall self-storage place, I think that would just further impact the living over there to begin with. So I don't see why that makes sense. And it already is an area that's pretty much part of an eyesore. So to begin with. So for me, it would be a no.
I think the consensus would mostly be no, but as you know, we're still obligated to give them the opportunity to present. What I'd like to do, or what I will do, what I'm doing now is I'm putting I didn't do this before. I am putting our WhatsApp groups. This is only for land use committee members in the chat. It's the link to join that. I like more engagement on there. We speak more frequently. I do want to find out what the current zoning of this is, which is part of my homework. What exactly is there now? I got to go on the website and see what's permissible there now, because obviously they can't do what they'd like to do without getting a special permit. So in preparation for next month's presentations, I like to have everybody have that information as much as we can. Thank you, Mr. Holland. And this is why we always got to bring up our business, because you never know who's here. You never know who's here, and I appreciate him and his stance, and I'm sure everybody else in this committee does as well.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the opportunity for next month. Thank you, Kwame.
No doubt. Any other questions pertaining to this topic?
Oh, one more thing. The other part that makes me nervous about is that we were, in terms of the rezoning, working really hard to keep the areas that are in the R4 or close to it out of any rezoning where we could,
Yeah.
to avoid increasing the height factor, and allowing a massive storage place to go up there starts to erode that argument of maintaining that area the way it is. And if there are other, I could think of some better things in that M1 where it's the border of M1 and R4, of other things that we could use in the community to leverage the things that we actually want to have there rather than that.
Okay, so so you're saying it's an M1? That's what you're saying?
It's most likely M1 because it's like right at the
Okay.
border of the residential side, and then you start getting into the industrial area right there. So that continues over to the overpass. So that's the little strip that includes like Farragut and all of that.
Yeah, I'm looking. I have to look at the things that you drive by so much, but now I'm looking at it. I recognize the storefront that's
Yeah.
popping up.
And there's that like automobile.
Yeah, it's like
Remember, we have cars all over the sidewalk from a car place that came there a couple of years now. I
Yeah.
mean, there's like nowhere to walk, and then you have someone selling fruit that people complain about, all the rats and stuff from that all on the corner, and coconut water.
And honestly, it would cause a.
It's kind of out of place, to be honest. I'm just speaking outside of my chair's perspective and as a community resident. That location for that type of facility is kind of out of place. I don't think that the housing that's in that area would support that type of facility. I don't think there's major big buildings and stuff like that there. I don't personally
get the trap in terms of transportation. DOT, like getting cars to self-service there would be really impossible. It's too tight there with the side street to begin with, to be able to manage like traffic flows in that area, which is already difficult as is.
So you believe it would cause a choke point with people coming to drop off?
It already is one. It already is one without that added impact of that. Because usually you have to have some way to drive into a self-storage place, and that really doesn't have much room to negotiate turns into there.
Yeah, like reminds me of the ones on Erasmus Street.
Yeah.
Miss Bennett, your hand is raised. Oh,
I was going to say I agree with Allison. It makes no sense to put it there. Unless you just want to include or contextual zoning.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, like when you look at the demo of what's actually going on, or the type of homes that are there, typically you would want to see facilities like that more around apartment buildings. People would need to, store stuff that they can't in their apartments, but it's a lot of houses, so I don't really know if it justifies something so tremendous. Seems out of place. That's my opinion. I'm not.
In that area, as you look, that has 4 floors.
Yeah, and there's other ones reasonable distance. I don't think that's exactly. I'm not sure whose hand was up first. I'm gonna say Viglianti, Miss Viglianti.
Yeah, the other question always about those storage facilities is once you open the variance and let them build that high or higher, then, does that open it opens it up to then they close that down and they build something else that high in that spot because we've now opened up the variance. So could they put, a apartment building there or some larger other thing, some other structure once the variance is open up?
Well, we need to know what we would need to do some research on what actually the ZR permits, because that's the specific zoning variance that they're looking for. So it probably does include that, and it could be a placeholder for something else in the future. Say it's just a storage facility now, keep it up for a few years, and then really put what you want. It could be that, but we have to see what the permit allows outside of what they're putting in front of us. What's permissible to be there. And these are all questions that we could ask them to their face next month when they're here. Seems like it's going to be packed next month. Miss Hazel.
Yes. I agree with Marguerite because that was going to be one of my comments. And I think this particular place always has stuff being delivered there. So I'm wondering if that business is failing. So now a cash cow is actually a storage facility. And next thing you know, it's going to open the floodgates for that, because that is really that section. This section here is really all that is left in East Flatbush that's pretty much untouched by the developer. And this is what's going to happen now.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the map. Yeah, I'm looking at the map. Ah, sorry. Alexandra, you handed this?
Since it's a piece of land suitable for a building as large as a storage facility, is there a way that we could leverage that to maybe suggest that it be used for something that's more needed, like affordable housing? Because the other thing I'm thinking about these storage unit facilities is that, especially I've noticed lately, particularly on Snyder, they've sort of become their own version of affordable housing for homeless people. And that's creating its own problem. And I'm not sure if that's what they're looking to capitalize on. Um, I certainly hope not. I'm hoping that there's a better solution. If they're going to present, well, I think that the gentleman mentioned he's presenting against it, but if they want their permit to have any chance of being approved, I'd be very interested to see any statistics that support the community needing a storage facility.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you know, the zoning is M11, and M11 for that property, it could be used for light and manufacturing, industrial, commercial use, or for community service. But you're not M11 is not amenable for any kind of housing. So you'd really need a variance to put housing there.
And what is the ZR permit? Is the ZR specified, or the ZR is a specially constructed? Because that's what I thought I read. Was I reading that correctly? Did I misinterpret that?
Well, you know, I don't have it up right now, so I'm not seeing
Pursuant to a ZR section. They're just saying the special permit.
Oh, well, the special permit.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay, wait a minute.
they're looking for a special permit. So the special permit is gonna have to. They're gonna have to say how they want to be classified in the special permit. You know?
Right. See, my group 3 or 4 years ago came up with this special permit, and we got it passed through the city.
Okay.
Okay, and so now, because before, storage facilities could go up as of right. Now, because of the industrial business zone, where the property is becoming less and less available for manufacturing that creates jobs, you have to get the permit. So they have to prove why they need it. I'm going to have a very strong case as to why it's not needed in the manufacturing area. There's already eight of them. And I'm going to have the square footage, how many square foot they are, and how many employees total, as a comparison to how many employees if it was a manufacturing place, because that's what we're shooting for. We have we've already met with the borough president, and we have a meeting set up, my team with the borough president, Antonio Reynoso, who is pro economic development and manufacturing. And I'm sure, I can't say for sure, but I'm almost very positive that we're going to win his support. We don't have a say-so in whether or not it's going to get passed, but the community board has a lot of influence. When we voted for the special permit, every community board across Brooklyn and across the 5 boroughs voted yes, hardly any. So when it got to the mayor's office, who had to sign it, he signed on the dotted line. We don't have what's called an official vote, but we have a lot of influence on whether or not this is going to pass. So with the community board, the Brooklyn Borough president, and other local elected officials, if we get them all on board, and when the special permit goes up to the the land use review process, and they're going to see, excuse me, ULURP. Yeah. When it goes through ULURP, we'll be able to make testimonies. My group is going to make testimony. As a matter of fact, I will be the one making the testimony on the manufacturing's behalf, and for the industrial business zone. And anyone can make testimonies. There's going to be 2 or 3 opportunities: one before the city council, one before could be the boards of standard and appeals, and one other time. We're going to have 2 or 3 times that we can make testimonies. And I think that we stand a really good chance of preserving this from manufacturing space where there will be good paying jobs for local residents. And as the woman said earlier, the people that use these storage facilities are not from the community. They come, they put their stuff in, and all of these storage facilities, very few of them will tell you how much occupancy they have. They're hardly filled up.
That's why I was going to ask you if you could get that information to see how.
We always try to get it, but they don't want to give it to us. But here's what we found out. The storage facility industry is a mega billion-dollar industry. They have money galore, okay? And I don't know what their purposes are opening these places, but I can tell you, here's what they say. We lost an argument in Queens. A group of us 2 years ago went to Queens before the borough president. They got to the borough president before we had a chance. And it was won over, and we lost, okay? The permit, they got the permit to put it up. And of the storage facilities, 5 in the surrounding area, not one of them would tell us, show us any records of the occupancy. They would say they're 70, 80% occupant full. And they said, oh, the businesses use it to store stuff. Businesses don't use it to store stuff. They need stuff. Only big giant contractors, like I'll say like McKissick. McKissick is huge. If they would build that $130 million project, they might use it to keep supplies there. And they might put a month or 2 months of supplies there so they don't have to keep shipping them in and take them out as they need it. Only large businesses will use it. So for the most part, I can say to you that I feel that most of these storage facilities are half full or less. And that's why they haven't divulged anyone. Now, this is going to be the second or third attempt since the storage facility permit came out. They must really want this one. It's 70,000 square feet because it takes about a year. And lots of these storage facilities, managers don't want to do it because of the time and effort and the money. It's going to cost them a lot of money, but they really want this space. And I think we have a good chance of sending them away and getting the space to using something that's going to be much more productive for the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holland. Again, Allison?
I'm just gonna say that in light of, that M1 area and all of that, we may want to actually ask DCP to do a presentation on the mayor's City of Yes plan, because there are 3 zoning initiatives that are being put forward for the city council to vote on. One being economic development, another being housing, and another being like environmental. And maybe I would rather that we leverage those spaces to see if that moves forward, that we get things that are going to be useful to the community there, rather than filling it up with placeholders for the future, which is what a storage facility is.
I think that's what it is. I haven't seen it get knocked down yet, but any day. Thank you, Allison. Ms. Martinez, Hazel?
Yes, I have a couple of concerns here. One concern is that with Mr. Holland, because I remember him, but I'm concerned with his group too, because very often our community gets the bad end of every deal, no matter who it is. And if they don't put this storage unit there, and then they come into manufacturing, how tall is that going to be? I mean, is that going to be within the R4 that it is? Or no? And they always promise us jobs and employment. And number 2, the other concern I have is we live in this particular area, because I live in walking distance to this thing. We have a borough president and a current mayor who couldn't find their way to this neighborhood with GPS. We haven't heard from them. So what are they going to really care about what we get? And people need to really think about that, because they didn't even bother to campaign over here, much less. They don't come here. They pay no attention. So I don't even think that they will really care one bit what's put up over here. Because we saw it all down Farragut Road, all down New York Avenue. So it is now progressing to here because that's all that is left.
Sorry, I'm just taking some notes. Ms. Viglianti, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I agree with Hazel. But my question about manufacturing zones, I think unless they get a variance, they can't build higher than 2 stories, right? So if it was going to be something else, they'd still need to get a variance for it. I think M1 is only 2 stories, right?
He said M11. I think it's only 1 story.
1 story, okay. So if they put something else there, it would have to stay within the same footprint as what's there, unless they get a variance for the other, whatever else they want to build. So we'd be in the same position if something else wants to go there and they ask for a variance.
My experience with manufacturers, when they take over space, they don't usually look for variances when they're taking over space because it takes time and money, and they don't have that. The only manufacturers that I've dealt with that have tried to get variances are manufacturers that own their property, that have been there for a number of years, and want to expand and go higher. A new manufacturer that's going to lease that property, unless they're getting a 10 to 15-year lease with an option to renew, would, I believe, put in for a variance. It would be very slim chance that a manufacturer would put in for a variance to go higher.
Thank you, Mr. Holland.
Thank you. That's good to know, actually.
Ms. Martinez, your hand raised again. Ms. Hazel, or is that from before? Sorry, I looked away. Oh, thank you, Ms. Martinez. Allison.
My thought too is about that storage having self-storage there, is it could be a play to go with that basically homeless shelter they have, a hotel that's down there, where the same way that they're having like the DSS is having like using what they wanted as a pesticide facility, now being a storage for homeless materials for homeless shelters, playing that same kind of thing where it becomes another storage site for whatever ills the city has elsewhere that they don't have a place for things. And it could play with the people that they're filtering in and out of that hotel.
Thank you. I think we're at the just before the minute. Does anybody have any other discussions or new business they'd like to discuss tonight? And thank you, Ms. Martinez, for that. Martinez, both Martinez's. No discussion. I'm just gonna Ms. Thomas, thank you. Oh, and Ms. Fields, for your meeting. Could you just, if you don't mind, just see if you could give them some information about this letter we're proposing, just so you could kind of craft your piece of it. Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. Yeah, it just feels like we're so busy fending off and fighting off big construction that we never really seem to ask for what we want and get what we want. And I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I feel very strongly about the fact that we don't have enough places for kids to play and seniors to sit and have a sandwich on a bench. Like, there are no public spaces in our areas. And that is very concerning to me, that we are not demanding this kind of stuff from our elected officials. It just feels like the conversation is always fending off. We're always playing defense instead of, actively seeking what we really need. That's all. I just wanted to just bring that up.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Can I add one more point to her question?
Absolutely, Mr. Allen.
Okay, I'm very much involved in East New York, and I'm involved with East New York. I'm not a member, but I'm in support staff from the East New York Community Land Trust. They've performed the land trust out of Cypress Hills to look at properties that are owned by the city, the state, police department, HPD, and even private properties that are in their area, And the fact that they have the community land trust, they have to be notified when things are going to happen. This is the way to know that you have an idea of what the properties are and you have a say-so on what's going to happen. The East New York Community Land Trust, right now, we are involved with 7 properties that we are, well, they are getting ready to bid on and get from these entities and put what they want. And one of them, they're putting up a big food co-op. They already have the plans and everything's designed. So one way to get a hold.
Sorry, Mr. Holland. Yeah.
No, Mr. Affray, that's fine. So a community land trust is something to think about. So you have more say-so in your community with what's happening with the land. Just want to mention that.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Ms. Martinez?
I couldn't agree more, which is why we've been pitching the Brooklyn Level Up Community Land Trust in this area. We are well aware and partner with the East New York Community Land Trust because we're part of Nicely, which is the New York City-wide initiative of community land trusts in the area. One leverage that they have in their community that we don't is they have actually more publicly owned spaces than we do, unfortunately, to leverage. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the opportunity to utilize like opportunities when they're going to look for votes for changes in zoning, which is the City of Yes plan, to leverage for the open space that we need, for the commercial spaces where we could utilize the manufacturing zones for commercial spaces that we need for small business support, or private properties that are blighted that we could bring into a community land trust. We're working on a lot of legislation to make acquisition possible and support it, and we hope that people will join that effort because it will make a difference in especially lowering the barriers to entry for home ownership in our community.
You know, I'd be happy, Ms. Martinez, to introduce you to Michelle Neuberger, who's the executive director of the Cypress Hills LDC, who formulated the East New York Community Land Trust, to have a conversation with her about it and how it could be advantageous to people in this community board, if you'd like.
I'd be very welcome to do so.
Okay, so
I'll put my email in the chat.
yeah, okay. I'll put mine in the chat as well. Where's the chat?
The people, you hit the person with the silhouette of a person, 3 lines, usually. Little bubble. Okay. Allison, is your hand still raised, or that was from before? I'm assuming that was from before.
Before.
Time is 9:04. Hearing no other new business. Did anyone want a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Tamara Thomas.
Second.
Who seconded?
Second.
I'm messing with you. Everyone have a good night. Thank you. Oh, and reach out.
Good night.
WhatsApp group is good. If you're that tech savvy, it'd be nice if you join that. We speak on there, and we have a lot of smaller conversations before this grand one, and it's a good place to put information so that we don't miss out on anything. You know.
Sounds good. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.